Hello, and welcome to Ontology Explained. I'm Casey Hart, philosopher and ontologist, and you are listening to my channel where I explain how to do ontology, how to think about philosophy and artificial intelligence, and in this series, how to become an ontologist. In the last video, I gave you my path from grad student to the ontologist you see before you today with his own YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you might take that same journey. Now, you will have a different story than mine. You're starting with a different set of skills in a different place than I was. But if you want to become an ontologist, there's a path for you. And I don't know if this is encouraging or discouraging, but I've talked to a whole bunch of different people about how they became ontologists. There's not a ton of us, but the stories are widely varied. So I'm going to try and summarize those into the three main paths I see for becoming an ontologist. And then I'm going to give some focused advice on wherever you are right now. Here are the things that I would do if I wanted to both see if I wanted to become one, but also to develop the skills that I needed to move forward into one of those three paths. Also, as a side note, if you would like for me to interview some different people, I've thought about doing that on this channel, call up a few friends that I have who are ontologists, ask them questions about what their story is. If that's something that would interest you, let me know, drop it below in the comments, and then I'll do my best to twist some people's arms and get them on here so that they can talk about their journeys as well. All right, so the three main paths. First one, learn by working. Get a job that pays you to train up as an ontologist. Second way, go to school to become an ontologist. And then third way, do it as a hobby, self-taught, learn on the side, and then pivot to making that a career. Let's look at each of those in turn. Most folks that I talk to want to start with the first path. Like, how can I just get a job as an ontologist and then I'll develop and learn those skills? And that is awesome if you can get it, but it's tricky. And there are really two paths within this one. The first is you have to go someplace that is big enough that uses ontologies and has lots of ontologists so that you could get some mentorship and learn on the job, right? Whether that's a place that's big enough that you can intern at, or just a place that has so many ontologists that if you're good enough at, picking up the slack and following directions, you can find someone, attach yourself to them, and then learn while you're there. Those companies are probably companies you're already thinking of: Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Look for a huge tech company that definitely uses graphs, figure out where they use those graphs, and try and get a job in that department. And when it gets big enough, there'll be some entry-level stuff where there's some basic things that you don't need to be an expert ontologist to start, filling out forms, copying and pasting sorts of things, and then you'll learn as you go. Not a bad route. The second way that you can go if you want to learn on the job is you can look for a smaller outfit, but one that is ontology focused, so they have lots of ontologists there. That could be like a consultancy, like a semantic arts, or a enterprise knowledge systems, or there are a number of other just sort of large tech consulting firms that have some data component that does semantics, graph technologies. If you apply to one of those, you could sell yourself as someone who's really smart and willing to learn. Maybe you take a little bit of a pay cut or something to come in as like a junior consultant, train up with a more senior consultant, and then you can learn on the job that way. And then the third learning on the job approach you might take is take a job that is not ontology or semantics straight up, but is like adjacent to it. And then you can start incorporating some semantics into your daily work. So if you're a database administrator or you're a data scientist, someone who works with data and has a way to say like, okay, what if I just added some graph databases to the stack that I'm already working with? And then as your skill set grows and as you're able to demonstrate that that stuff's valuable to the company, then you get more responsibility and that can grow. And then eventually you can write your own job description, right? Where you become an ontologist for the organization. So those are the three routes to go. Large company with tons of ontologists, smaller company that's just more ontology focused that you can get in, or you can sort of carve your own path by working in a position that's adjacent to ontology, and then you can sort of bring that stuff in along for the ride as you go. Now, worth noting that I'm talking about three general paths here, but they're going to mix and match, right? So while you could learn on the job, or you could be self-taught, or you could go to school, you can do a hybrid of all three of those approaches. There's not a one-size-fits-all here. See what's going to work best for you. Pros and cons to learning on the job. I think the pros are pretty obvious. You get paid while you're doing it. And if you're getting paid to do it and learn, then you have a little bit more job security, right? That's always scary if you're trying to teach yourself something for a career that, what if this career never pans out for me? But if Amazon hires you to bring you on as an ontologist on day one, you know there's some future for you as an ontologist. The cons, though, it can be a really slow path a number of these different ways. Just because you get brought on as an ontologist doesn't mean you get to do the stuff you might be really interested in about semantics. So if you found yourself drawn to this channel or thinking about things because you love artificial intelligence and inference and reasoning, you might find that the entry-level job that you get as an ontologist at one of these large companies to sort of teach you and show you the ropes is a taxonomy job where you are just like copying and pasting information about like product details, and you're not thinking about the structure and design of the graph or how we can infer things from that graph. And so you're working in the field, but you're maybe not doing the stuff that really interests you. Also, while you're getting paid immediately, if you're doing a learn on the job sort of approach, often you're taking an entry level position and maybe not getting paid as much as you would like to get, which depends on who you are in this audience, right? From my background as a wannabe academic, when I was looking at the entry level salaries, they were way better than I could expect in the academic field. So let's talk about the second path, not going and learning on the job, but rather just going to school and studying specifically for this. This is great, but there aren't that many programs that specialize in ontology. And in fact, if you ask someone like, what department do I even go to learn more about ontology, you're going to get a variety of different answers. It's probably going to be one of the following. It's either going to be computer science, library sciences, philosophy, something in data science, or linguistics. I think most of the majors that are pushing straight for ontology are going to fall into one of those fields. This is a little bit like game theory in that sense, where it's like the economics and mathematics and philosophy departments fight over who gets game theory because it's a cool subject that students want to take classes in. Ontology is not the cool class that people want to take classes in, but it is really unclear like which field does this fall into. In terms of universities that offer specific ontology programs, there aren't that many. When I was just looking before this and, based on my experience in the field, talking to people who have studied in programs, you've got SUNY Buffalo under Barry Smith. You've got the University of Washington, especially their library sciences program. And then there was also, I think it's like UCSB or something like that, has a specific ontology department, or not ontology department, but a specific focused program on ontology development, which is cool. But those programs are rarer. I don't know exactly how competitive they are to get into. I haven't looked into that. Maybe because they're rare, they're super competitive, or maybe the reason they're rare is because there's just not high enough demand. So if you apply for those programs, you'll get in. Worth looking into. Pros and cons of the schooling route. Obviously the con, you're not making as much money from the start. You're going to actually either be incurring some debt or essentially, working like you get a stipend and get underpaid for just free education in order to develop a skill set that then you can monetize later, which is fine. That's the trade-off that many of us grad students have had to make. The pro of it, though, is you get to dive in and learn about the subject in a very focused way. You might worry, and I've worried at times, that the more I learn on the job with things, am I just getting like practical knowledge about how this works, but I'm missing a lot of the theory, or I'm only learning the stuff that's like specific to this use case? If you go to school for it, it gives you a chance to be curious and develop a well-rounded view of how ontology works. What's the history of the semantic web? How can you think about the various ways that these ideas play off one another? Another advantage, if you get a degree in ontology and you're applying to positions, it will make you look like a very strong candidate. There aren't many people who can say, I studied at a university to be an ontologist. If you have that, those letters behind your name, that's worth something. And then the third category, You can learn to be an ontologist by being self-taught. Now, I'm not going to say too much about what exactly this path looks like right now, because in just a second, I'm going to give you my general advice that I think all of you should pursue if you want to become an ontologist. And more or less, that advice is the advice I would give to someone who is self-taught. What I will say in general is you can be a self-taught ontologist the same way that you could be a self-taught programmer. So how do you learn Python? You go and find someone's Python code, and you copy it, and you figure out what it does. And you look for tutorial videos, you find those, you copy them, you learn how they work, and then you just have to be curious and self-motivated. And that really takes us to the pros and cons here, right? The con is pretty obvious, which is that you have to be driving the car. You have to be the one who figures out what sort of content you want to go find and learn about. You have to be curious and push yourself on that. It's not always obvious which things you do know or don't know, the known unknowns, that sort of thing. So it's a hard path to be self-taught. But the pros are great because you're driven by your own enthusiasm and curiosity. And to the extent that, I guess this is, I just did the fallacies video on the ad populum fallacy, and we shouldn't just appeal to popularity. But if I was appealing to popularity here, there are a lot of people that I've met in the field of ontology who are self-taught. So I don't know if that's because there just aren't as many organic ways to get into the field, and therefore the ones who get there are ones who have kind of had to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, or maybe ontology, the way that it sort of is structured, the kind of field where you need to be curious about learning new domains because you're building data models for them, maybe that lends itself to the sort of person who wants to teach themselves the field too. So might be some evidence that that's worth pursuing on a self-taught kind of way. The other con, of course, it might be a very long road and you're not getting paid, and you're going to have to make the case at the end when you go to appeal to someone, I want this job, right? They'll say, well, we want someone who has experience with OWL and RDF. And you can't, it's hard to say, well, I taught myself how to use them, right? Now, maybe you can get a good interviewer who will allow you to demonstrate those skills and they can be confident enough that you know them. But you know how hard it is on the job market. If you have a recruiter who's looking for you to say you have a skill set and you say, I have that. And they say, well, did you go to school for it? What? You say, I'm self-taught. The self-taught thing often has someone pretty skeptical that you actually have developed the skills that you need to. So getting that first position as a self-taught person might require some more effort, some more networking and elbow grease than it would otherwise if you had the credentials of education or if you had just gotten a job to begin with and you had sort of gone from that. Okay. So those are the three paths. You can learn on the job, you can go to school, or you can teach yourself. In whatever of those three areas you're in, if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I want to be an ontologist, I want to get better at this, what should I do? What are your go-tos? First and foremost, like and subscribe. Watch my channel. Hopefully you'll see in some of my videos things that will inspire you, teach you, get you excited. At first I was going to do that as a joke, but in all seriousness, I mean, it doesn't have to be my channel, but go find some content on YouTube, on podcasts. I was on Larry Swanson's podcast. He's got some cool stuff. There's stuff out there. There's not a ton, but there's some stuff out there. Go and read and listen to ontologist content. This will be good in a couple of ways. One, it's a small field, so if you can make some connections and know what people are out there, you can reach out to them. That's good for networking. Two, it's going to be really useful for you in figuring out whether you like ontology. If you listen to this channel or other people's channels and you're just bored out of your mind the whole time and it doesn't sound like an interesting thing, then ontology might not be for you, right? I mean, maybe not my channel. My channel might just be boring because I'm bad at video editing and like a more boring guy. But if you don't like any of the content about ontology out there, that's a bad sign that this field is for you. But if you like that stuff and learn stuff about it and start networking off of that, that is going to push you closer towards being an ontologist. In addition to content creation, right? Go read books the traditional way that people used to learn things. There are a number of good ones out there. I actually don't think I've come across a really bad ontology book. The field's small enough that there aren't that many that I've read, whereas it's like, I haven't read any that were just terrible, that like didn't help someone. So I would say go find an affordable book and go for it. personally, the books that I have read when I was transitioning from PsyCore and like their specific PsycL to OWL RDF vocabulary, I read Demystifying OWL for the Enterprise. I also think I did Building Ontologies with BFO, and there was another book, Semantic Web Primer. So those are kind of my three. Another one that came out somewhat recently from Juan Cicada and or Lascilla is Designing and Building Enterprise Knowledge Graphs. I haven't read that one, but those two have fantastic reputations, and it's on my list of things to go read. So you can't go wrong with that one, I don't think. If you're totally curious and you have no idea about a given source, drop it below in the comments. I'll look down there. That would be nice. I'll learn some more about what material is out there, and then I can kind of give you the thumbs up or thumbs down based on what I see. Okay, so you're consuming content, you're reading books as some of that content, and then you're going to download Protégé, and you're going to do the pizza ontology tutorial, or find another ontology tutorial. You can just Google RDF OWL tutorial. Go build it in Protégé, learn how it works, download things, start playing with it. Then build your own ontology. So once you've done enough in the tutorial to say, okay, I understand pizza ontologies, now here are some things that I know a lot about or I'm interested in that I want to develop. And here I'd always say, pick 5 things that you really care about, and then take the thing that you care about least of that list and try that as your first ontology that you build. Because your first ontology is going to be terrible. You want to know it well enough that your passion or knowledge about it isn't the limitation in building the model. But because you're going to hate the ontology, you don't want to be your favorite thing that you built the ontology of. Once you start developing that, you're going to need to start figuring out, okay, now I've built the model, how do I use the model? And that's where we get to the next thing, which is develop your Sparkle querying skills. And rather than just starting by querying the ontology that you built, although that's great if you can jump into that, I would go to Wikidata. The Wikidata query service, just go to Google, look up Wikidata query service. It's the first hit that you'll get. That has some stored examples that you can use. You can see a working Sparkle query, and then you can tweak it and play around with it. And if that doesn't get you excited about doing ontology, the above things, then ontology might not be for you. And that's fine. Not everything is for everyone. But I don't think I've met anyone yet who likes ontology and is a good ontologist who started writing Wikidata queries or started building their own ontology model and were like, That's not what happens. If this is for you, you start doing those things and you're going to be fascinated by them and want to do them more. And you'll be like, I don't even know if the job market is that good, but I don't care because building these models is so fun that I want to do more of it. I'm thrilled that you've watched this video this long. It means that you're interested in becoming an ontologist. Come aboard, join me. We need more of us out there. When in doubt, read, build your own ontologies, write queries, figure out where the problems are, what things you don't know about, ask me questions down in the comments, find other people that you can go back and forth with. It's an iterative process. I'm already very grateful for some of the folks who have asked me questions. I've learned some new things along the way. I hope more of you will come along with me, and let me know in the comments, especially, what do you want me to cover next? What sort of advice, especially in this series, how can I help you learn how to be a better ontologist or make your path? What are your questions? Drop them below, and I'll have a video out as soon as I can covering more of that. Thanks so much, everybody. Till next time.